Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome back to another Sims 4 speed building video, or welcome to the channel if you are new here. So in today's video I'm going to be building in the world of Windenburg, which is the world that we got with the expansion pack The Sims 4 Get Together, and I'm going to be building a family starting cottage? A family starter cottage. A starter home, basically, but for a family. So this house has 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom, which I personally think for a starter house to have 3 bedrooms, that's pretty good going, especially as all the bedrooms are quite big, spacious rooms as well. You know, they're not small little box rooms, they're all quite big. You can fit a double bed in every single one of them, plus other furniture like wardrobes and desk areas and, you know, like children's toys and whatnot. They're quite big, spacious rooms, but it's actually quite a big house as well, especially for a starter home. But I basically wanted to sit down and build another starter house for my save file, because this house will be in my save, but I wanted to make it to a family, so like a starting budget for a family, if that makes any sense, because I found that whenever I seem to build starter houses in the game, I normally seem to make them to a single sim budget, which is 20,000 simoleons, but a lot of the time I personally like to play with families, and I know a lot of other people do as well. And so for my save file, I want there to be a few different starter houses that are not built to necessarily a single sim budget, but maybe a budget of 3 or 4 sims, depending on how many bedrooms there is and whatnot. Now, when I was actually building this house, the whole exterior was working on a single sim budget, which was 20,000 simoleons. But I say that, but I actually only had 18,500 simoleons to work with, because when you come out of cash, you have 20,000, but then you have to actually buy like a plot of land. And this land, which I say this land, this lot that my sim bought was 1,500 simoleons. And so the whole exterior shell and all the landscaping and basically the whole outside is 18,500 simoleons. I think it's actually a little bit under that, but it wasn't until I actually moved on into the inside of the house and I started doing the wallpaper and the flooring and the kitchen and the bathroom that I actually decided to up the budget and add an extra 2,000 simoleons to the budget. And so if you actually wanted to move a household into this house straight from CAS, you're going to have a household of at least 2 sims. Hopefully that makes sense. I don't know why initially I thought that I could build the whole entire family starter home of a single sim budget, because realistically that's never really going to work, is it? Especially a house of this size. But I mean, I had big ambitions. Technically, you could actually have a single sim living in this house, but they just can't have a kitchen and they can't have a bathroom because there isn't enough money for them. So just bear that in mind. By the way, if you want to download this house, you're going to have 2 sims move into here. Maybe you've got a couple, or maybe you've got a bunch of friends or something, but I initially imagined it to be a starter house for a family, and so that's why I decided to make it into 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom. You could probably have maybe like 4 or 5 different sims living in this house. You could have a room for some parents with a double bed, then you could have one room with maybe a set of bunk beds in, and then another room with maybe another set of bunk beds in. And honestly, you can do whatever you want with it once you download it off the gallery. But I do want to mention as well the way that I actually do all the starter houses for my save, just in case you're new here, or maybe you've never seen any of my previous starter home builds before. Basically, the way that I do my starter houses for my save is quite realistic, in the idea of you move into the house and you got the bare basics. So basically, when you move into a house in real life, say you just got your first mortgage, you just bought your first home, you're not going to move it into a house that's got paintings on the walls and curtains and sofas and, you know, all the decorational items. You're not going to move it into a house with that being furnished, unless actually you move into like a furnished apartment or a furnished flat, which actually I have done before. But normally, whenever you do that anyway, it's quite, you know, bare basics. But realistically speaking, whenever you buy your first house, it's just going to come with the things that are built into that home. So like kitchens and bathrooms, they're not things that you can actually pick up and put into a moving truck. They're going to be things that actually come with the house when you buy the house. And that's the way that I'm actually building all the starter houses in my save file. Also, don't worry if you're thinking that if you move a sim into this house, they're not going to have any money and they're going to be sleeping on park benches and stuff like that. Don't worry, I do actually leave enough money in the budget so your sims can actually buy some furniture when they move into the house. But it's kind of like the idea of your sims have got, say, a few thousand simoleons to work with. You get to choose the bed, you get to choose the sofa, you get to choose all the little details and all the personal touches into the house. And I just feel like it's a little bit more customizable that way, and I just really like it. So yeah, if you're worrying about that, don't worry, your sims have actually got a little bit of money to work with, so they can actually buy themselves some other furniture like a bed, like a sofa and whatnot. I did actually test it when I actually came around to playtesting this house, which, by the way, as always, this house has been playtested and everything works absolutely fine. It didn't really take me that long, if I'm being honest, to playtest this house. It took me a literal matter of minutes because there's literally only a kitchen and a bathroom. But still, I wanted to playtest it to make sure it was 100% workable, and it is. Everything works. But when I actually came round to actually see how much money you actually have left with a starting budget, I decided to test it with 3 Sims because I wasn't imagining kind of like a family living here more so than 2 Sims. Of course, if you wanted to have 2 Sims, there is still some money left over. I think there's around about 700 off memory, but I could be completely wrong, 700 simoleons left if you have 2 Sims. But if you actually move it in with 3 Sims, you actually have 2,334 simoleons to work with, and I actually tested what you could actually buy with that budget. So if you wanted to, with that budget, you could actually buy a double bed, a single bed, a dining room table, 4 chairs for the table, and then 2 sofas, you know, the love seat ones, like the 2-seater sofas, and then a TV, and then a TV table. That's what I tested it with. But obviously, if you wanted to change that up and you wanted to have a desk and a computer instead of maybe a dining room table and some chairs, you can alter it, but I wanted to make sure you can actually buy the bare basics for your Sims, and you can. And so I just thought I'd mention that as well. And by the way, I don't have amazing memory. I actually have all that written out on a Google Doc on my other monitor because there was no way I was going to be able to remember everything that you could actually fit into this house with the budget. But yeah, anyway, moving on from that and actually finally talking a little bit more about the house itself and what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, the main structure of the build came together quite quickly. Now I do want to mention that I was actually looking at a picture that I found on Pinterest when I was building this. Whenever I look at a picture, whether it's just for a little bit of inspiration or if I'm trying to replicate something in the game, I always like to let you know because, well, I don't know, I just always like to mention it whenever I do. But I was looking at a picture when I was building this. I found this picture on Pinterest. I'll pop it up on the screen now so you can have a little look. I just instantly fell in love with it. It was the most adorable little cottage, and I think it's like a model that you can buy. It just looks so sweet, and I saw it and I was like, right, I need to build that. I want to build it in Windenburg because the wallpapering on the model was quite Windenburg-like, and we actually have a similar wallpaper to the one in the model that we actually got from Get Together, which is the world that, you know, Get Together gave us Windenburg, if you want to put it like that. But I just saw it, I fell in love with it and wanted to recreate it in the game. I did just want to mention that. But as you can see, this house does actually have some terrain manipulation, which I really would have never thought that in this area of Windenburg that I would ever be using the terrain tools to actually have a bit of, you know, a bit of a hilly house. Is that's not really descriptive, but you know what I mean? Like it's on a hill basically. I would have never thought it because if you actually look around the surrounding neighbourhood in this world, it's quite flat. There's not really, I mean, there's some slopes kind of leading up to higher parts of the town, but all of the grass areas are very flat. But I felt like for this house, it just made sense to kind of replicate the picture as best as I could. And I really liked the idea of the original house that I was looking at in the picture. It kind of had multiple levels of terrain, and I just really liked it. And so this house ends up having quite a lot of terrain manipulation. And then as you can see, I've actually just gone around and actually added some fencing around the kind of hills of the terrain. Now basically in the picture there was something very similar to this, but with terrain manipulation, quite often when you actually raise something up from the ground and you want some flooring next to it, it can look quite, it can just look really like, it stands out like a sore thumb, put it that way, because it will just, there'll be completely flat ground and then it will just raise up instantly. And so I kind of wanted to minimize that, and so I actually found these live edit fences in the live edit menu, and then I actually went around and just kind of built them around the hills around the lot. I feel like it just helped it blend in with the surrounding neighbourhood, because I feel like if I didn't add that wall around the terrain and then it was completely flat ground and all of a sudden there's a hill, it's like, what are you doing? Why are you there? You make absolutely no sense. And so I'm really happy that I decided to use these live edit fences or like stone wall kind of things to kind of make it look natural and make it blend in. And also I feel like this stone wall, even though it came with Cottage Living, that wall by the way, if you're searching for it in the live edit menu, it came with Cottage Living, even though it came with that expansion pack and we're building in a world of, you know, Windenburg, which came with Get Together, I feel like the packs go together really nicely with some of the furniture items, and I feel like them packs are just, they just merge together really nicely. And so I just felt like it fitted in. And yeah, anyway, moving on from that and actually talking about what I'm doing right now. So as you can see, I've actually now moved on and I've started doing a bunch of landscaping. I am so grateful that I've got the tool mod, because literally landscaping this build without the tool mod would have been impossible. There was no way that I could have done it. As you can see, the menu keeps on popping up consistently throughout the whole landscaping process, and that's basically because whenever you try and put down like a flower bed or a tree or whatever on a bit of terrain that's kind of been, you know, like manipulated into a hill or into like a bit of a ditch or whatever you're doing, it will always float up a little bit. But with the terrain, not with the terrain tool, with the tool mod, you can actually make it so you can get it to a particular height. It is so useful. I highly recommend it. I've always got Twisted Mex's website linked in my description box down below. He is the creator of the mod and also the creator of the Better Build Buy mod, which is the mod which allows me to have the live edit menu and the debug menu in my normal build and buy. I'm actually not joking when I say this whole entire build wouldn't have been possible without the tool mod and without the Better Build Buy mod, because without them there would have been probably no landscaping, and the landscaping that there would have been floating, and I wouldn't have been able to, move the walls around in a particular way. And yeah, I mean, I can't praise the mod enough. But another thing that I actually did with the tool mod, as you would have just seen, is I actually just found one of these really big walls, which is in the live edit menu. I think it come with Get Together off memory. Basically, when I originally pulled it out, this wall was absolutely huge, and I originally was thinking that I wanted to make it into a flower bed. So what I actually did is I actually sized it down so it's well, it's not tiny, but it's tiny compared to what it originally was when you originally put it out. And I decided to actually corner off some sections of the landscaping to make it look like that was the original flower bed. Now, when I was building this, I didn't actually have a family in mind that were going to live here, as it's going to be a starter house in my save file. It's going to be a house that you create a family and you move into, rather than a pre-made family is going to live here. There wasn't really a storyline there for the family as such, but I did actually have an idea in mind for the actual house itself. So to me, Windenburg is proper old. Like, it is an old town. It's hundreds of years old, and so are the buildings. Now, I actually had the idea in my head that this house was extremely old, like in the hundreds of years old, and it was probably derelict for a number of years. And before it was derelict, the original flower beds that I actually put down, so the sized down wall that I placed for kind of like a sectioned off flower bed, was originally just going to be where the flowers was. But over the years, where it's been, not maintained, it's kind of overgrown, and now it's just really overgrown cottage. I really like that idea, and I just feel like it fits in as well with the idea of it being really old, and it's kind of a little bit higgledy-piggledy on the outside with the hills and all the fences, and some of the walls that I've actually selected, the ones, the stone wall from Cottage Living, some of the pieces that I've actually selected actually have kind of like broken down parts of it. I think you can just about see a broken down piece in the top left corner of the screen. It kind of just fades into the floor basically, and I was thinking that maybe where this house was, empty for a number of years, maybe teenagers used to ride their bikes around here, and maybe one of them on their bikes one day accidentally kicked the ball over and it just kind of broke and fell into pieces. And there's also some rocks dotted around in the flower beds as well, and it just really adds to the idea in my mind that this is a really old and was a derelict house for a number of years. Got a bit out of hand with the landscaping, a bit overgrown. As you can see, I've also actually added some ivy onto the exterior of the house, like on the walls. Now, I actually often get questions where the ivy is from. Now, in this house, I've actually used 3 different types of ivy. So there is one set which I've actually used on the walls, kind of on this like diagonal piece. Now, that one is from the live edit menu. I believe that is in base game. Then there is the one which is the darker ivy, which it just kind of got a little bit more texture and a little bit more detail. That darker ivy is from Discover University, and then the one which is the lighter ivy is from Cottage Living. Hopefully that makes sense. And then I also actually used some wisteria as well, which is from Cottage Living. You can get the wisteria in both the live edit menu and then in your normal build and buy. I think I used a mixture of both, but I think I mainly used the one from the live edit menu, mainly because, sticking to a budget, being a starter home and all. And so I tried to, minimise the price of landscaping as much as possible in this house. But anyway, as you can see, I'm just going around and kind of finishing up the flower beds. I'm using the tool mod quite a lot actually to move some plants into certain places, and I actually taught myself a little bit more about the tool mod a few days ago. Well, I mean, I say I taught myself. I actually just watched some tutorials by Twisted Mexi on like better explanations of the mod, because basically I'm one of them people that whenever I'm prompted into a game, say I've just opened up a brand new game for the first time, never played it before, if there's a tutorial, I'm one of them people, I always skip it, and then I end up actually having to go back and watch the tutorial because I actually need to find out how to do something that was previously explained in the tutorial. I'm just one of them people. And basically previously I've actually watched some different tool mod explanation videos by Twisted Mexi, because they actually have a few on their channel, but I've never actually watched a deep dive into all the different things that the mod can do, and there are so many different things. And so basically I found out that the way that you can freely move objects without picking them up is literally hold down Alt and then just click on your screen, and then whatever direction you're clicking in, the object will move. Now you might be thinking, hang on, why don't you just just pick up something and just move it freely anyway in the game, because you can do that. Which also, by the way, if you're wondering how I'm able to move things 360 and get like certain camera angles when I'm building, I use Sims 3 camera. I've actually had some recent questions about that. Sims 3 camera is so much better than Sims 4 camera. Once you start building with Sims 3 camera, you'll never go back to Sims 4. There is so many more options available in that camera. But basically, if you just pick something up normally, you can, like freely move it around. But where I was building with terrain tools and terrain manipulation, and normally all the landscaping will kind of clip to funny heights and kind of be floating when you use terrain manipulation, because I'd previously elevated it down to be to a particular height that I wanted to, if I was to pick it up and then move it, then the elevation that I previously put it to would kind of disappear. But when I was clicking Alt, it wasn't disappearing. Hopefully that makes sense, but I did just want to explain that quickly, just in case you were wondering how I was able to do that. But anyway, as you can see, I've actually now moved on into the inside of the house. I'm just going to quickly furnish the kitchen. It's very bare basics, as well as the bathroom. It's just simple stuff: toilet, sink, bathtub and whatnot. But anyway guys, I am actually going to end this voice over here, so as always you can download this build via the gallery. My origin ID is JessicapieYT, or you can search for the hashtag JessicapieYT or just the hashtag Jessicapie. As always, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, if you do like my content, then please do subscribe, and hopefully I will see you in my next Sims 4 speedbuilding video. Bye guys.